Hello, hi, it's me, Kendall, and this is day, I don't know, week 4 of Kendall Writes a Story. So, welcome to the show. I know it's been a little bit since I've gotten a video out. The last video that I got out, hopefully you can tell why. And that is, yes, so I am going to take a break from the Abram Wade story. I've gotten most of the facts about him, which was the initial goal, right? Learn about the cabin, what are the facts, and report back to my parents so that they know. So I've done that part. And Abram has done more than he ever could do, or more than I ever expected originally, as far as inspiration. He has done so much as far as it comes to inspiring me. So I feel like I'm doing the right thing in kind of putting him to the side. I've still got all of his paperwork. I'm not throwing it away. I do want to write a story involving him and the information I learned at some point. But to be perfectly honest, I think it's a nuanced story, and I think it's a story that requires much more mastery than just writing the first time. Now I will say I'm balancing those thoughts, the thoughts with doing right by Abram and making sure that I'm equipped to write the story that I want, right? I'm balancing that with something personal to me, which is I tend to have a history of starting projects and leaving them to the side. So this has been, also part of why I haven't put a video up, because I've been kind of spiraling around, throwing around and trying to figure out where I stand on that. Because on one side, it's silly. Anytime you take up a new craft, right? If you take up woodworking, your first project is not to build, a complex wooden chest that has 15 interlocking, mechanical pieces, or 1,500, right? You don't do that. So that's what I'm balancing. Now I already am starting off with a pretty heavy task, which is to write a full-blown story. But this one, Abram's story, has developed into something somewhat personal for me, something deeper than just a fun story. So, I do want to set him aside. The rules I've set for myself to make sure that I'm not just running away from a difficult task is that the next one, I have to keep building skills that I haven't had before. Now, the rule that I'm holding myself to make sure that I am balancing, and that I'm not just throwing Abram's story away because it's hard. The rule that I'm adding is that my new project, I will have to develop new skills, right? The things that I want to develop in order to tell Abram's story correctly, the things like plot development, character development, being able to write good dialogue, being familiar enough with the different nuances of dialogue, right? And that may take a couple of long stories, right? And dozens of editing processes before I truly feel like, and several years, to be frank, right? If this is something I want to pursue, it's going to take a while. So I'm saving Abram. He's there. I'm happy to have him, his story, but I am going to move on. So what I have here, so this is how I organize it. I use these little note cards, and anyway, it doesn't matter, but I have like my little inbox and different categories. So really everything, I have a random note, a random idea, something I need to buy at the store, it goes on a card and goes here in the box. And so I have my story ideas. Every time I get a wild story idea, I write it down on a note card and I put it in here. And I haven't looked at these since I've written them. So I have a couple different groups. I have like plot lines, right? Like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if there's a story about a giant squirrel that ate the world, right? Plot lines, and then I have scenes. These are like just, I'll see something and I think, man, that would be a really good scene in a story, right? Man eats a piece of ice cream and I don't know, whatever. So I've got those, and I had one more, but I guess it's just those two. I might have a couple more squirreled away. So I haven't looked at them since I've written them. I don't know what's in here. I'm probably going to be embarrassed by a couple, and I'll probably cut a couple out that you'll never see. But here they are, and I'm going to read them. And what I'd love to do is just share them, and if you're watching this and some sound interesting to you, please leave me your comments. Because what I'd like to do, so next week, what I'll do is I'll take one of these ideas, or I'll just take an idea, and I'll start outlining it. And we're going to outline it together next week. if it's something that really inspires me, then I might just start writing it. But right now, my goal is to do that at least 2 or 3 times. So for the next 2 or 3 weeks, to each week have a new story idea, roughly outline it, see if it intrigues me, see what I'm thinking, and then do it again. And do those a couple times, and then find something together that looks like a fun story, and then we start writing it. So that's kind of what I have planned for the trajectory, and we're starting from scratch right now. Okay. Okay. Story idea: future world where machine. Okay. Right. So a lot of these story ideas have to do with machine learning and these sort of semi-futuristic worlds, like 15 or 20 years from now, where machine learning does a lot of the thinking for us. That's a trend you'll see. So this idea is a short story where machine learning can actually interpret the intent of statements, of writing, of laws, right? It can maybe read a document that somebody wrote, and it can say, oh, they used the word angry 17 times, so they were very angry. Or, oh, we know, having looked at all the documents in the world, because it's machine learning, right? And having looked, we know that if you use 3 nots in a sentence that you are depressed, right? If you use the word not, N-O-T, 3 times in a sentence, you are depressed, right? And so imagine a world where our technology is so good that it can read an email and say, I think you were depressed when you wrote this email, right? Imagine that world where you're getting in for work and you're, sending an email and you get an alert from your clinician, from your doctor. It says, hey, I think you might be depressed. Let's come talk to someone, right? Or a step further, imagine you're in a world where you're being tried for a law, for breaking a crime. And you've got this new machine learning, and you can go to the judge and say, hey, machine learning looked at when this law was written 150 years ago, and it was written all by racists with racist intent. So you can't apply this law to me because I'm a black person. I'm a black person. I'm a African, a Hispanic, whatever. I'm a woman. Insert group here. Something, right? Because machine learning is showing promise that in 50, 60, 100 years, maybe sooner, it can start to deduce things. I mean, it is already deducing things. I work in recruiting, and in recruiting, we have machine learning enhanced products that will actually read resumes. There are some products out there that will read resumes and give you a gist of what it says. They will look at the words and see if it's going to bias towards female applicants or male applicants. That technology already exists. So it's not a super big stretch to think that machine learning can start doing other assessments too, right? So that's that story. Let's see. Idea. When a new imaging technique reveals an underground machine, a team explores. So this is just if you've seen like the lasering techniques that they've used in like Guatemala, or in any place with ruins underground. Guatemala is kind of the famous example where they basically use these lasers on what they thought were hills, and the lasers were able to penetrate underneath the dirt and say, no, these are actually giant temples that just had dirt on top of them. So the thought here is there's a new imaging technique that sees an underground machine and a team of scientists go to explore. So does that sound interesting? Let's see. Well, I don't know what I was thinking when I wrote this. This isn't much of a story, but let's see where it goes. Story idea. Futuristic society where everyone learns the scientific method. I think maybe I was just feeling very hopeful that there could be a futuristic society where people are logical and thoughtful, but, there's that. I don't know what this one means. Mystery stories highlighting SCOTUS rulings, Supreme Court rulings, laws, etc., that have been passed, but only... Yeah, I don't know what this means, so I'm gonna put it over here. This was just a general note. Okay, story idea. Online TV show that live streams a riot or some other live event where folks are murdered or bad things happen. The twist at the end is that it's all made up like War of the Worlds. So just kind of a study on how people would respond. So I thought that would be kind of fun, like basically a rewrite of War of the Worlds, but for modern day. Yeah. Let's see, story idea. So it has to do with the right and left brain, right? We have two hemispheres to our brain. So there's a procedure that I don't know if they still do, but we have this little bridge that connects our two hemispheres, right? This little, it's not a piece of skin, but it's a piece of material right here that connects the two and allows the two to talk. And there was a procedure that they would do if you had seizures or some other very strong form of epilepsy. One procedure that they could do to solve it is just to snip that skin, separate the two halves. And I don't know if they do that anymore. If they do, it's for very extreme cases, because it's obviously you can't fix it. Once you've done that, it's over. But it creates a situation where your brains kind of interact and don't connect. So, for example, there's this syndrome, I forget what it's called, ghost hand syndrome or something like that, where basically your left brain perceives a threat and responds to it, which is what happens today. But since we have that bridge, it can communicate that threat over to your logical part of your brain and says, hey, there's a threat, and then you can give it permission, like, okay, cool, let's knock that threat out, right? But if that bridge isn't there, then you just swat it out without even realizing it. A phantom hand, I can't remember. Anyway, and this is the thing. I think there was actually even a House episode on this, right? Where a guy was at dinner and he was just like throw something at someone and had no idea why. It's because that part of your brain is doing it, but it's not communicating it to your conscious part, so you don't consciously know why you're doing that. But it's for a reason. Anyway, so the story here is right and left brain. What if the brain does little things without us knowing? Like if the left brain can feel and activate a muscle to get rid of an itch, right? Without going into the right brain where we notice, then could this be normal? So maybe starting with somebody who, I think the thought here was having a character who behaved that way, but didn't realize it was different. And kind of having fun with how to expose that to the audience, right? Because that's part of the fun with writing stories is there's this thing called turns, right? Where you're, as a reader, you think you're on board with what the writer's telling, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's a twist, there's a turn, there's something different. And so that might be kind of fun to like, hey, we're going on board, and then all of a sudden drop these little clues every now and then. Oh, something's not quite right, and then, it's not a twist at the end of the story. It's not that. It's something that would develop in the beginning of Act 2 probably, but kind of bringing, anyway, you get the point. So that's that idea. Final one here, mystery idea, plot. See a photo with a monkey. Okay. So this is just like a simple mystery, right? Like somebody murdered someone, you got to prove who did it. And the thought here was that the solution is somehow the detective, there's a picture of the person, and their alibi is that they were like in Africa or something. But the monkey in the picture has a tail. The monkey in the picture has a tail, and that is only unique to Central America. I think it's the Americas that have monkeys with tail, whereas with tails. Whereas like Africa and Europe, or Africa and Asia, their monkeys don't have tails, I believe, something like that. So the thought was that would be the MacGuffin, or the reveal at the end. That's how we would. Oh no, actually, very few people know, right? That monkey's brains in Cantonese cuisine. Anybody watches Clue? Okay. Anyway, okay, those are the plot lines. Now the different scenes. I don't know if these are worth looking at, but let's see. Oh, okay. So this was cool. It was like, what if we write just like a little short, like 1 or 2 page, like a micro story about a world almanac. Since basically we have the internet, but it's not curated, so we have no idea what facts are. So what if there were like this world almanac, and I have an almanac here, but no one uses them anymore. And what if there were something like every day you could just check and say, how is our economy doing? And it would say the economy is 66% optimization, and we can say, cool, it's election day, that sounds great to me, and we'll know that it's a fact. So this is, again, more of a hopeful thing. It would be great if we had this, but it'd be nice to explore that. So anyway. Okay, this was just a scene idea that somebody tries to assassinate the president with a virus, if you've ever heard of that. And the way that they do it is they fake temp check and tries to give him the virus. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so it's an idea for a scene in a story, for the start of a short story. A discussion on going back in time and diseases, and one of the main characters just like blurts out, he's kind of an asshole, and he blurts out and says, well, actually time travel is pretty impossible because anything more than 100 years, because we don't have antibodies anymore. Right? We don't deal with these diseases that existed back then. So I just thought that would be, I love, and you've probably heard me say this before, but what I really like about stories, really well written stories, are ones that teach you facts about topics you think you already know, right? It's great to learn things you don't know, right? It's great. Like, hey, did you know the price of tea in China is $17? Well, great. I didn't care and I didn't know, but it's cool that I know, right? It's great that, but it's, to me, amazing when it's like, hey, did you know you thought the price of tea in China was $5, but it's actually $10, and here's why. I love that. I love that. And Michael Crichton, you probably heard me say this before, I love because he does that quite a bit. He did it with Jurassic Park, with dinosaurs. If you read, so in 1990s, when that book came out, people didn't realize dinosaurs were related to birds, and he kind of blew that wide open. There was a National Geographic article about it like in 92, 93, so somewhere around there. But, you know, that wasn't the whole world knowing it. That was people that read National Geographic magazine. So I really like that concept, and so that's why that scene intrigued me a little bit. So let's see what else we got. I guess that's it. Those are all my cards. So I'll noodle around on these and other ideas that I've had, and I'll start on something next over the weekend. In the meantime, if you have thoughts, please leave your comments here, and I will incorporate them. All right, thanks everybody. Have a great day. Ellie, you can hear, she says goodbye. Have a great weekend. Take care.